I was going to save this conversation for later, but as I was doing my research in the break here, I feel like it's something that we need to hop into now. Another fantastic night for Dillon Gabriel. Yeah, he had the pick where he overthrew a receiver, but that looked like more of one of the ones where the ball just kind of got away from him as opposed to making a bad decision in a bad spot. Those will happen. You're fine with that, especially when it's part of a 21 for 25, 84% performance with a couple more touchdowns and another nice rushing performance. But I went to pull this up because I wanted to have this conversation later, but don't look now. Dillon Gabriel now plus 260 for the Heisman Trophy. Ashton Jeanty plus 230. Those odds are shortening between the two of them, or they're getting closer. I've been fascinated by this race this year because of the fact it feels like the people that are all in the top are there for different reasons. Jeanty seems like he is the most physically dominant at his position. Like
he's the best player.
Period. But then you also have Travis Hunter and what he's doing playing on both sides of the ball. And then you get into the very typical best quarterback for the best team in the country type deal. And I'm a little bit surprised Ewers isn't higher, but I know he's missed two games. And somebody said that there hasn't been a Heisman Trophy winner who's missed 2 or more games. I don't know if that's actually accurate, but I'll be fascinated to see how these things fluctuate for the rest of the way. Because it feels like Jeanty has to continue or keep putting up video game numbers. Gabriel, if he stays the course, I don't know. If it felt like tonight was kind of a level night for him because of the fact it's on the heels of this great game that he had against Ohio State. Maybe it wouldn't boost him, but here I am looking at it and creeping a little bit closer to Jeanty.
Yeah, I think Gabriel is going to continue to keep he's going to creep closer to Jeanty unless Jeanty just decides, like, I'm going to average 300 the rest of the way.
Do you think Gabriel flips him at some point?
I think there's an opportunity, yes, because look at what you have to do left. You're going to go and play Illinois. Illinois has a really good defense, and you're going to be the main game on CBS, so people are going to get national exposure. You're going to play Michigan. Whether Michigan is ranked at that moment or not, I mean, that's going to depend on what they do against Illinois. You're going to get a lot of eyeballs on that game just simply because you're playing Michigan. You're also playing Michigan on the road. You're going to go to Wisconsin, who I think that Fickle might have gotten the dairy raid figured out a little bit. Locke kind of looks good, or Lockie, whatever you say.
Van Dimes goes down, and I thought that they were going to be cooked.
Van Dimes sucks.
Well, but whether or not he sucks, you lose your starting quarterback that early, and you think, "Oh, this is going to be a
you're
problem."
In trouble. But
they've got it going a little
bit.
The
backup's been pretty good. The defense looks all right. And then you're going to play UW. That's a rivalry game. That's going to be a tough one. You're going to get eyeballs. And then, look, if you take care of business and you do what you're supposed to do, you're either going to go against Ohio State again or you're going to go against Penn State. And the voters are going to love that when you look at this Boise State team. Jeanty's going to get UNLV. And that's about it. So he has to continue to I think he has to break Barry Sanders' record to get the respect that it's going to take for him to get the win. And then he's going to need Quinn Ewers to have a couple bad games in big moments. Texas might not have to lose the whole thing, but you're telling me right now if Quinn Ewers comes out and throws for 400 and 5 touchdowns against Georgia tomorrow, that he doesn't vault into that race? Like, that's what happened with Milroe. That's what happened with Dillon Gabriel. If Dillon Gabriel goes out and he just dominates Illinois for 400 and a couple touchdowns, and he does the same thing to Michigan, he is going to continue to move forward. So I think that Gabriel, as long as Oregon keeps winning and they keep taking care of business, and he keeps looking like some version of what he has been right now, super efficient, he's got to start taking care of the football a little bit better, but then is able to add in his running game as well. I think that Dillon Gabriel is going to be in it because he's the best quarterback on the best team or the second best team.
Yeah, I would say that Cam Ward's probably his closest competition. I think him, maybe Curtis Rourke were floating from Indiana kind of up and down with him through the Heisman rankings. Jalen Milroe was a little bit higher. I even saw like the kid from Army getting some votes, which kind of surprises me. So I think that alone tells me that Dillon Gabriel has a really good shot at this. But I know he got injured recently, but I am still worried about Travis Hunter being in that conversation. He is just so good, and this year I'm not thinking a quarterback will win it because of how good Jeanty and Hunter have been.
Just to give you guys a snapshot of the board out there are 7 players with odds 1,500 or shorter. You've got Ashton Genty plus 230, Dillon Gabriel plus 260, Travis Hunter 6-1 plus 600, Cam Ward plus 650, then Jalen Milroe 14-1, and then Quinn Ewers and Carson Beck 15-1. Like if Carson Beck goes into Austin tomorrow and throws 4 touchdowns and beats Texas, his odds are catapulting tomorrow.
100%.
So this is
Milroe has a spot.
100%. Yeah, if he goes and carves up Tennessee in Neyland Stadium, he's going to jump up against
Nico has a spot. There's so many big games that are still left on the table that there's a lot of guys that have a shot, and Dillon Gabriel is one of them. And it's because he's played well, but it's also because his team as a whole have played well.
Absolutely. Now, aside from the awards and the odds that go with them, I want to talk to you just about Gabriel and the way that he's throwing the football, because I feel like throughout this season, maybe the knock on him has been that his passing hasn't been perfect. Some people have said that his arm isn't big enough. I know that when he turned in or wanted to get back his scouting grades, I listened to on the broadcast tonight them say that he was disappointed and frustrated with what they said about him. And then the analysts tonight were talking about the way the ball was just jumping out of his hand, both in warm-ups and on the field tonight. What do you notice about him as a thrower? Not necessarily at the next level, but what makes him dangerous as a quarterback? What makes him good? What makes him a Heisman caliber quarterback here for the Ducks?
The irony is, like, he has all these interceptions, right? He has 4 or 5 on the year, whatever the number is. The 4 that stick out to me are in, the last 4 games or so, 5 games. He actually makes pretty good decisions with the football.
As evidenced by his 80-ish% passing
completion
percentage.
Right.
Yeah.
So aside from his interceptions, have you seen him make throws where you're like, what are you doing? Like, where is that one going to? Or that guy was wide open. How do you miss that? Or if he does miss someone that is wide open, it's because, well, that's like the last guy on his read, and so he's never going to get there. It feels like he's starting to go through his progressions a lot better. He's taking more chances because he's getting more trust in Evan Stewart. Evan Stewart really seems to be on the Tez Johnson path of last year.
Bingo.
Where it's just like,
you've been saying this is coming, and I've kind of been monitoring it, and I'm like, dude, Will has been onto this. You basically said that the point that you've made that I think is so astute, that last year you had Troy Franklin, who was like Biletnikoff caliber.
Yeah, he's the dude.
Receiver, and you get Tez Johnson in, who you've also heard great things about, and you're like, well, this guy should be awesome too. And you're like, wait a second, I thought this guy was going to be a little bit more awesome than that. And it took you until about halfway through the season to get, I think, maybe the chemistry with the quarterback, to get comfort in the system, and now all of a sudden you have 2 monsters, and that might be the bridge we're crossing now with Evan Stewart.
Right. Well, and I really think they get to play the true role that they were destined for, where Evan Stewart is your true big play guy, and Tez Johnson gets to be your short down
possession guy.
Yes, because Evan Stewart, that speed, there's just so few guys that have it. Where like Tez, I'm not saying Tez isn't fast. Tez is incredibly fast, but Tez's acceleration and his quickness off the line, that's where he really can make his leaps, and that's where you see his big plays come from. But going back to Dillon Gabriel, they always say that he has a weak arm. I don't know a quarterback right now that's throwing a better or a prettier deep ball than what he's doing. Like, he just puts the ball. It's almost Russell Wilson circa 2017, 18.
And so that's just it. I think that sometimes people mistake. I understand the need to have a big arm to throw the 60-yard bomb and to thread a ridiculously tight needle, but I don't think you need a big arm to throw a great deep ball.
Right.
And Dillon Gabriel is now showing us, after some reps with these guys, he missed. I keep thinking back to the Boise game where he could have really put the game away with a couple deep shots of guys that he had open. Feels like ever since then he has hit whatever he has wanted to over the top, and it's because he's got so much he's got just the right amount of finesse and air under the ball that it seems like
it's a moonshot.
But it's got enough juice that he's not making his receiver slow down either. But he's also giving him enough opportunity to adjust, and it seems nearly perfect from a deep ball perspective.
Right, they run underneath it, they run to it. It's Russell Wilson again. It's a short quarterback having to adjust how they throw their ball because they're not Josh Allen. They can't see over the line quite as well. They don't have the angle because they're shorter. They're not as tall. So you have to figure out a way to throw it. And I know that kind of affects him when it comes to tight windows, over the middle of the field. But guess what? You don't really have to do that because it's college. How often is that throw a necessity? And yeah, I think that's why you see some struggles when it comes to his red zone passing. But guess what you start doing now? You use him in the +1 run game. So then teams have to account for him with a spy. It opens everything up with his passing game. So I think some of it early on, some of the struggles might have been because they were holding stuff back for Ohio State. And now you're not going to see some of those struggles because there's no reason to hold anything back. Who are you holding it back for? Illinois, Michigan? It's already been on the table. You've already shown it against Ohio State. You might hide a specific look or start going through specific tendencies that you're going to use and trick teams with a move away from that tendency. But right now, there's no reason to do that. Just go and find ways to win.
Well, it seems like he has the total package, whereas he's making all the throws. He's in the right mental space where he's making the high percentage decisions, which I think is absolutely crucial. And he's got himself squarely atop or close to the top of the Heisman race. So we're going to continue to monitor just how stellar Dillon Gabriel's season can be. Maybe he's lifting that trophy by the end of it. Certainly the way he's playing, he'll get an invitation to New York. Can he lift it? We'll find out as the season goes on.